Here's a look at the All-Star reserves in the American League. Josh Naylor, Marcus Semien, Bobby Witt Jr., Carlos Correa, Rafael Devers, Isaac Paredes, Kyle Tucker, Riley Green, Jarren Duran, Salvador Perez, and David Fry. As for the pitchers, you got Garrett Crochet, Seth Lugo, Tarek Skubal, Tanner Houck, Cole Reagans, Logan Gilbert, Corbin Burns, Tyler Anderson, and Kirby Yates. Your AL relievers are Clay Holmes, Emmanuel Clase, and the flamethrower, Mason Miller. Time now to welcome in CBS MLB analyst and insider Jim Bowden for his thoughts on the All-Star reserves in the AL. First one right off the bat, Jim. What's your biggest takeaway from the reserves that were named to the All-Star team for the AL?
Yeah, I think one of the things that really stood out to me is that 17 All-Stars will be making the All-Star team for the first time. 10 in the National League and 7 in the American League. So we're going to have a youthful group at the All-Star game, and I think that is really good news for the sport. You mentioned Mason Miller, the rookie with Oakland. You've got, on the other side, Jackson Merrill in the National League, a rookie making Heliot Ramos of San Francisco. So I'm really excited about the fact that we're going to have 17 first-time All-Stars.
I am, too. You know, you get to introduce them to a new audience. They get to show off their talents. Really great for growing the game. Now, when it comes to, a lot of people talk about, you know, who's going to be the starting pitcher, whether it's for the AL or the NL. Who would be your pick to start off on the mound?
Yeah, I think in the American League, you know, there's a lot of really good candidates, and I think if you did it statistically, Seth Lugo probably would be the guy. But for me, it's going to be Corbin Burns of the Baltimore Orioles. You know, look, he's won a Cy Young in the past. He's a big name, and I think he deserves to have this opportunity. And Bruce Bochy, the manager of the Texas Rangers, will be the one making the call. And I think he's going to go to a veteran guy. And although Tarek Skubal deserves serious consideration with Lugo, I think it'll be Corbin Burns, and I think that would be the right decision. And then in the other league, in the National League, and look, it's clear to me, Paul Skeens should be the guy. And I know, look, a lot of people are saying it's got to be either Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler, and I get it. Both of them had great years. I've heard a lot of baseball people say, hey, you know, these guys have started 18 times, Skeens has started 10. I don't care. Right now, Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in baseball. Paul Skeens is the biggest story in baseball right now. He has taken the sport and is the headliner. And the young kids of America, they want Skeens. And I think Major League Baseball, it's an exhibition game, should give the fans what they want, and I think it should be Paul Skeens.
Hey, look, we're going to dive into that a little bit. And more, we're going to dive into that a little bit more after the break. But those people, Jim, there's no denying that they deserve to be on the roster for the All-Star team. What about some biggest snubs, though, that were left off, in your opinion?
Yeah, in the American League, there were 2 starting pitchers that I can't believe were left off, and that's Joe Ryan of the Minnesota Twins and George Kirby of the Seattle Mariners. Now, Joe Ryan has 6 wins with a 3.29 ERA to date, with 118 strikeouts and 109 innings with a whip of 0.9. And George Kirby, who has some of the best control and command in the sport, certainly in the American League, 7 wins, a 3.3 ERA. He's got 101 Ks. His whip is 0.98. So both of them, to me, deserve to be on the team ahead of Tyler Anderson of the Angels. Look, I understand that Anderson is there because the Angels have to be represented by a player, but I think it's unfortunate they got snubbed. In the bullpen, Andres Munoz, how does he not make it over Clay Holmes, Chris? I mean, Andres Munoz has 14 saves and a 1.5 ERA, 43 punch-outs in 35 innings. And I know Holmes had a great first quarter, but, you know, you look at him over the last month, Munoz should be the guy there. And, in fact, I can argue that Kenley Jansen should have made this team with 17 saves with a 2.08 ERA. And then finally, I think when you look at the position players, I think 2 Baltimore Orioles got really snubbed. Jordan Westburg, the second baseman, third baseman, he's hitting .282 with 14 homers, a 140 OPS plus, a 2.8 WAR. He's been absolutely amazing. Anthony Santander, his teammate, has 23 home runs. And David Fry makes the team, and I get it. He's at 300. He's been on base 40% of the time. But David Fry makes the team over Westburg and Santander? Really? And then lastly, I would even argue, because the game is being played in Arlington, Texas, they should have found a way to put Corey Seager on the team. I know he started the year on the IL, and I know he had a period of slumps, but he still has 15 homers and a 129 OPS plus. And so to me, those are the guys that have been snubbed in the American League.
You know, I have no arguments with that whatsoever, especially about Munoz. Like that, I don't understand that just based on looking at the resume of all those players. Here's a look at the National League reserves for the All-Star Game. Luis Arraez, Pete Alonso, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Ellie De La Cruz, C.J. Abrams, Ryan McMahon, Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Merrill, Brian Reynolds, Elliot Ramos, Will Smith, and Marcell Ozuna. As for the pitchers, Ranger Suarez, Tyler Glasnow, Shota Imanaga, Reynaldo Lopez, Logan Webb, Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, and Zach Wheeler. For the relievers, you got Ryan Helsley, Tanner Scott, Robert Suarez, Matt Strahm, and Jeff Hoffman. Time now to welcome back Jim Bowden for his thoughts on the NL All-Star reserves. And Jim, it would be a crime not to talk about Paul Skeens making the All-Star team. First player to be drafted #1 overall and make the All-Star team the next season first, right? So what does this mean for the sport of baseball?
Yeah, it's exciting for the sport because he has become the headline story of the 2024 Major League season. And it's not just because he has the coolest mustache in baseball. It's because he has a pitch called the splinker that nobody can hit. In fact, opposing batters are hitting 140 against him. But he has changed the enthusiasm of baseball in the city of Pittsburgh like they haven't seen in years. He is an ace. He is right now the best pitcher in baseball, and I think it's pretty exciting that he will be in the All-Star game. I hope now baseball does the right thing and make him the starting pitcher. Nothing against Zach Wheeler of the Phillies or Chris Sale of the Braves. They both deserve to start as well. But you look at the last 10 starts, there's been nobody better in our sport than Skeens, and I think that would be the perfect way to start an All-Star game is him walking on the mound and throwing that 100-mile-an-hour fastball and splinker. So that's what I'm hoping happens.
Hey, fans would love to get that sequence, that image in their heads. Now, another team, right, that has a lot of great players, the Phillies. They set a franchise record with 7 players going to the All-Star game. What does that tell you about where this team is at right now, Jim?
Yeah, well, Chris, first of all, we know where they are, right? This is the best team in League Baseball. They have the best record in the sport, and they deserve to be well represented. And I certainly don't think anyone in the sport's going to argue with the 5 players you see on that graphic right there, with Bryce Harper at first, Trey Turner at short, Alec Boehm at third, and 2 of their starters, Ranger Suarez and Zach Wheeler. You know, look, I know how great Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman have been. I could argue there were some closers that maybe should have made the team over one of them, to be honest. But I think when you have the best record in baseball, you deserve to be well represented, and I'm happy for the Phillies and their fan base.
And, you know, somebody who's not on this All-Star roster, Jim, for the NL is Christian Walker. I was surprised, you know what I'm saying, that Pete Alonso got it over him. What are some of your biggest snubs, though?
Yeah, that would be my #1 snub as well. But the reason that Pete Alonso made it over Christian Walker isn't because he deserves it more. It's because the New York Mets have to have a representative in the All-Star team. And so they could have picked Brandon Nimmo. They could have picked Lindor. They chose to go with Pete Alonso, and that cost Christian Walker the spot on the team. I want to follow up with Christian Walker because this guy's got 22 home runs. He's been on base at a 34% clip. And, oh, by the way, he's on pace to win another Gold Glove award at first base. And so he deserves to be on the team. And, Chris, I'm completely with you. He's the #1 snub. You know, look, I think there's a couple others, too. Let's talk about the Braves closer for a minute, Raciel Iglesias, who's been a key component of this Braves team that's in second place right now behind the Phillies. Got 21 saves. His whip is 0.8, and he has a 2.2 ERA. You're telling me that Matt Strahm and Hoffman deserve to be on the team over Iglesias? I'm just not buying that. So that's also a snub that kind of gets me the wrong way. And then finally, the shortstop with the Cardinals, the rookie Mason Wynn. He's got a 3.4 WAR. This guy has made unbelievable defensive plays. He's got the best shortstop arm that the Cardinals maybe have ever had in the history of the franchise. He throws 101 miles an hour from the hole, and he's hitting 294. And so I think if I had to look at the 3 biggest snubs in terms of the National League, I would rank them Walker 1, Iglesias 2, and Mason Wynn 3.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But when it comes to the game, Jim, you got Corbin Burns going up against Paul Skeens, right? If that is indeed who the NL and the AL are going to put out as the starters on the mound. Who do you have? Who are you leaning towards winning this game?
Oh, I've got the American League winning the team. I think they have the more dominant team. And look, I think with the National League, they've had some key injuries, right? The Braves lost Ronald Acuna Jr. They lost Spencer Strider. Manny Machado, was trying to come back from the elbow, and he's not 100% yet. So there's just been a lot of injuries to the National League. They've got a very young team. A lot of rookie position players made the team as well. I don't love the depth as much as I love it in the American League. So I'm going to have the American League winning this game. But I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we'll see a very close game.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and you are always fun talking with us about baseball. Thanks so much, Jim. We appreciate the time.
Thanks, Chris.
And again, as we head to Arlington, you got 32 first-time All-Star selections, 17 in the National League, 15 in the AL. Phillies, 7 All-Stars, as we talked about, most in the majors, franchise record. And Paul Skeens, first #1 overall pick to be named an All-Star in the next season. That is just how good he has been this year.